Welcome, students. Dear aspirant, as we mentioned, today's session is just something new. Before the starting sessions, I request you, am I audible to you? If audible, please mention the yes in the chat box. Then we're going to continue with the content of the most important session. Am I audible to you? If yes, please mention. Yes, very good. Hopefully, I am audible to you. Now, as the every time we start the sessions with some good thought. Now, this is today's about the good thought. All of powers is within you. You can be everything and anything. Let's apply this content to our RC sections, to our the vulnerability sections. As we clearly mentioned, today's topic is the importance of verbal ability section in banking and SSC-CGL. Before starting this session, it is very essential to understand what is the meaning of the verbal ability and in which component of the banking examination verbal ability section will be the very useful. So that's one thing we have to understand through some slides, through some questions. As usual, we're not going to solve the questions. We're not going to find out the answers of the particular questions in RC, in Cloze test or the para, but we're going to understand the importance of verbal ability in order to crack the English language paper in coming IBPSPO exam, SBI PO exam, even the SSC-CGL exam. Now, first point here, we have to understand what is the meaning of the verbal ability. Verbal means your communication. Maybe it is a written communication, it is a spoken communication. It communications through the words, through the verbs. This is known as the verbal communication. Now, in examination, where the verbal communications will going to assess. Before that, it is very essential. Interview is a part of a bank view examination. Our the spoken verbal communication will going to assess, will going to very helpful in an interview. This one thing, and definitely for the preliminary examinations, for the main examination, even in objective type or descriptive type questions paper, our written verbal communications will get assessed. It competency will going to check, will going to evaluate it. Now, verbal ability as sections just very clearly mentions what means the meaning of the words, verbal use of the words while communication. This is a simple meaning. Now, which are the verbal skills? The verbal skills, written and the spoken skills, as clearly mentions, it must be our ability, our thoughts, our feelings, our thinking process. It must be communicated through concise and comprehension form. This is the second form we have to be understand. Now, which are the next part? Now, next part is clearly mentions here as we go through this. When we feel some person very competent in verbal based competency, you are confident in your verbal ability, definitely. If the verbal ability sections you are confident, this verbal ability sections, your master will going to help in grammar section. It will going to help you in vocabulary section and the comprehension section. These things we have to understand where verbal ability will going to help in the English language paper. Now, next thing here we have to understand the ability means capability of the persons. If I mention the verbal ability means it's your ability to use the English word in proper context, in relevant, or we could say not only in essay writing, in reading comprehension, we should understand the meaning. What are the contexts? What are the broadest meaning of the terms abilities is mentioned here. And the last part, the verbal ability mentions it is our effective use of all the three parameters: grammars, then vocabulary, and comprehension is expected. And this is the known as the verbal ability section. Hopefully, you understand the verbal ability. Now, in precise definitions, verbal abilities to use the essential component of what in English language in order to communicate both way. Just which are the both way? Both way for the spoken where it will going to helpful. It will going to helpful while in interview sections. That's one thing. Now it will going to helpful in my written examination, preliminary examinations, and main examination, both of it. At the same time, don't consider the verbal abilities section for your the banking examination in day-to-day life also. As we're going to read the Hindu newspaper, Economic Times, we're going to have the different arena from the reading comprehension. Maybe it is a politics, maybe it is from the environment background, maybe it is from technological science background. In order to understand the paragraph, as like our mother tongue, it is an essential part. You must have a command on the verbal ability. As ability is a capability not to read, but to understand the meaning of an author, understand the tone of the editors in our own language, what it want to say. And this is known as the verbal ability section also. Now, next part we're going to study about as when we list out the topics in both the banking and SSC-CGL examination, these are the major topics. Reading comprehension, we're going to have questions on reading comprehension, where verbal ability section will going to useful in closed test. Fill in the blanks. We have to find out the antonyms, we have to find out the synonyms or analogy of the terms, maybe the match the column. Verbal ability will going to helpful. Next sessions will be the error detection, maybe in a sentence, maybe in the paragraphs also. Verbal abilities for the paragraphs and jumble paragraphs. We're going to explain with the example. It will going to helpful in vocabulary and grammar sections also. We're going to have direct questions in order to understand the vocabulary grammar section. One word substitution, definitely it is a direct verbal ability capabilities or concept. Next one is the idioms and the phrases. Idioms and the phrases. Next one is the antonyms and the synonyms. Now, just take the one simple example. Now, if the one word which are used, just take the example of the metacognition. Metacognition. Metacognitions is the method well known in pedagogy. Well known in pedagogy. See, there are the two terms. In order to understand the full meaning of the sentence, we must understand what is the meaning of the pedagogy. At the same time, though it is a technical terms, unless and until we are not aware about the metacognition, it is very difficult to understand the meaning of the sentence. And verbal ability sections will going to helpful in order to crack the meaning, in order to understand all the topics. If one vocabulary is there or the one word substitution is there, to get the clear idea about that one, we need the command on verbal ability, and it is not the one day task also. The next point here in this session, I'm going to explain about both the SSC CGLs and bank examination. Just I mentions here, verbal ability sections as metacognition. If you know the meaning of the metacognition, just take the example. As sentence is given and we have the following four options. Now, A option is there, B option is there, C option is there, D option is there, and E option is there. A simple question is you have to find out the synonyms for the metacognitions. If you know the answer, maybe within next fraction of a second, you'll have the right options also. Means your ability, your command on the verbal ability, yes, chances of her to get the score more is very high. That's one thing is important. Means command on the verbal ability can get the more question. As we know, the options are relatively very similar in meaning also. If we are confused, we don't have the clear cut idea about the meaning of this particular word, then it becomes very difficult to choose the right options. Verbal ability plays very important part. Now, when we consider in both examination, SSC CGLs and the banking examinations, time management is very essential. As in examinations for bank PO, we need to solve the question within a 40 seconds. Same case for the almost main examination. Therefore, time management is a part and parcel of English language paper. The verbal ability section, if you know it, yes, within a time limit, you can score the good marks also. As comparatively, our papers and paper patterns, verbal ability sections carries good marks in it also. These are the things we have to understand. Now, VARC, this terms mostly used in CAT language papers, but we must be the familiar with the terms VARC, verbal ability reading comprehension section. What is the requirement of this section? Now, see, as a requirement of these sections, how we could overcome it. Whether it is the hindrance for some students, but is there is a method, because it is very difficult to mark the meaning, to understand the one word substitution is antonyms, synonyms by using the flashcards also. But there are these some methods, and which are the some methods we have to understand here. Like, we cannot master in overnight. We cannot mark 1000 word within a 7 days. For that purpose, we need at least have 8 to 10 new words in your vocabulary, in your notebooks, in your verbal ability VRC section. Like the formulas, we can memorize it one day, maybe 15 or 20 formulas, but it is very difficult to memorize the words also. Next thing, in VRC sections, as it is not an overnight job, it is very long-term planning. And for long-term planning, we must be consistent with the all the component of verbal ability. We have the reading consistency in reading newspaper. We must know the application of the grammar rules in the close test section, jumble section, or error detection section. Therefore, practice language is most important thing. And as we know, both the pre and the main section, reading comprehension, is the toughest thing, all within a time limitation. If we want to successful in time management, it is my request, you must have a command on verbal ability. Therefore, verbal ability, VRC section, playing the very important part. Now, those person have a regular habit. Maybe it is a little bit time consuming, but at least one editorials per day is part and parcel in order to get the some command on the verbal ability section. Now, which are the four components of the verbal ability section? Yes, we discussed the first component is vocabulary, second component is grammar, third component is verbal reasoning, and fourth component is a reading comprehension, where verbal ability section will going to give the more weightage or will be the part of our examination. Out of these, I mostly say this verbal reasoning sections nowadays becoming a more challenging part. Verbal reasoning, inference based questions from the paragraph is really challenging. It is really somewhat, it's a not moderate level, but it is level is going a little bit difficult level also. And verbal reasoning, you get the comparative advantage only when you have a command on the all the vocabularies also. Now we're going to discuss about the each and everybody parameters. First one, vocabulary. Vocabulary is part. Vocabulary, antonyms, synonyms, as we mentioned, where it will going to help. It will going to help in the completion of sentence, fill in the blanks in the close test, one word substitutions, or directly vocabulary is a key to this section. When we consider these are the parameters, like the word power made it easy. This is one of the reference book, normal livings. You have to be the comfortable with the pages, with the content of it. Now, how we're going to make this section vocabulary per day? Reading habit is only the answers. Now we're going to discuss about the second component, and second component is about the grammar section. Now in grammar sections, yes, directly we don't have the questions on the verbal abilities, but in order to find the mistake from the sentence, yes, it is little bit helpful to the students also. Now, in order to get the prepare the grammar as like a match to get the score more, we need the command on the verbal abilities also. As I mentioned, In case of English grammars, if we know the fundamental rules, but apart from the fundamental rules, we must aware about the conceptual clarity on a sentence, or the questions to find out the error in a sentence on the paragraph. It becomes very easy when we understand the conceptual clarity on this sentence also. Therefore, in this sections also, this is a very important part. Next section, we are talking about the verbal reasoning. As verbal reasoning is the questions, paragraph completions, paragraph sequencing, ranking arrangement, or it is important to good command over the language comprehension also. See, these are the sections in verbal reasoning. Inference, best conclusion, best paragraph is a part of verbal reasoning. Next section is a reading comprehension, where the reading comprehension is the fourth component of the verbal component. As there is no substitute for the reading. Every day we have to read either novels or the editorials, words passes. What are the passages which is try your best way? Maybe the one paragraph be 1 minute. If you understand it, it needs the command on your the vocabularies also. Practice reading. Try your best way computer screen, because the examination, both examination are online. If online is there, we must be compatible on the computer screen, and their reading habits also. At the same time, RC, if you feel history is your liking subject, don't go only in history. At the same time, you should be understand to conceptual clarity behind the political paragraphs also. You should understand the political science issues which are discussed, or maybe the environmental issues. Sometimes paragraph is very critical. The tone of the paragraph may be the pessimistic, sometimes optimistic. In order to understand the tone of a paragraph, it is essential you should know conceptual clarity. You should know, as the name itself mentioned, comprehension beyond the meaning of the paragraphs also. These are the four components. In this four component, verbal ability section plays important role. Now, in the next sections, we're going to discuss about how verbal ability plays important part by directly taking some question in last the previous questions. Now, this is a paragraph. Don't bother about the paragraphs, the reading, but just this is just an example of the paragraph. And in paragraph, the one word is boldly mentioned. We know the one word is boldly mentioned, and this is known as the intricate. Now, what type of the questions will be there? Maybe this is the type of the question most times asked in the examinations. Now, options, we have to find out the synonym, similar meaning of the intricate word. In order to get the perfect answer, we know all the aspects of the meaning of intricate. Because all the five options, out of the five options, 15% options, their meaning is definitely very closely related with the intricate. Hopefully, you understand. I'm not here to give the right answer. I'm here to understand the importance of verbal ability. When we know the meaning of the intricate, then and then we could answer the sections right. And as mentioned, verbal ability section is math-like section, is a score-like section. But when we have a command on all types of vocabulary, hopefully you understand what type of the questions verbal ability plays important part. Now, next questions when we talking about the close test. Now, see the close test, close fill in the blanks test. First, see the example. Now, sentence which is highlighted here, which is sentence IPCC says total global emission will need to fall by 40%. 2000 levels by 2013, reach net zero by 2050. Now, what can we understand from the highlighted part in part B? This is a part B. Now, in order to understand the part B, and meaning is mentions here, if you just read out the option number A, total emissions will need to fall by 45%. See, IPC states that global emissions will need to be fall to 45% by 2015. See, the numbers it is used, all the four options very closely similar. In order to understand the meaning, we should be understand connectors, how the connectors change the meaning of the paragraph or sentence. We should be understand the statics. This statics is for which part? This static is for which part? What is the difference between 2010, 2015? If in order to understand the meaning of this statement, we have more grasping power. We have to understand the English and its content like a native English, and verbal ability plays important part in this section also. Now, same questions. Now, blank number C. See the blank number C. Here's which adverb would be fit in the blank number C. Make sure it fits correctly and sound right as well. Fit correctly and sounds right as well. Now, faintly, sparsely, negligently, severely, inadequately. See, all the five options, their meaning are very closely related, and that is the beauty, or that is the level of difficulty. Now, in this case, be the most. We cannot put just blindly adverbs. Here, we have to understand by putting the faintly whether the meaning of the later part of the paragraph and previous part of the paragraph remain the intact or it is going to change. In order to get that knowledge, we must be command on verbal ability section. Now, next questions we're going to try to understand in close test. See, following passages, some words have been highlighted: A, B, C, and D. D, replace the highlighted words with correct option in order to make a grammatical and contextual sense of the sentence also. Highlighted word is correct as it is marked no improvement. See the questions. Now this is the questions. The question is attributed. First word is attributed. Is highlighted words. You have to replace the highlighted words with the correct options, whether eligible, whether applicable, attested, targeted, but try your best way. It must be grammatically and contextually correct. In order to get these answers, we must have a command on a verbal ability. Hopefully, you understand the importance of verbal ability. Now, match the column. Now, what does match the column? This is a little bit the complex sections also. Directions, two columns will be given. In two columns containing three sentences. Now, sentences or maybe the phrases A, B, C, and in second column, as you are aware about in question pattern, again we have the three sentences like D, E, F, A, B, C. Column number one, column number one. You have to match the column number in order in such a way like the clearly mentions make a grammatical and contextually correct the sentence. Same things. In order to make the correct sentence, we must know grammars behind it. We must know the meaning of the sentence. Then and then we could solve the match the column questions also. The same questions is given in the same pattern, match the column type of the questions also. Hopefully you understand. Now, what are the tips of verbal ability? In this video, we try our best to weigh the pattern of the questions where verbal ability section play important part. Verbal ability, in order to have a command on verbal ability, be consistent with the reading. First tips include the variety of reading, as RC is not stick to only the statics. RC is not sticks to only environment. All the paragraph, both in both in SSC-CGL, they are variable from the different spectrum. Maybe some paragraph international, some paragraph from the novels, some paragraph from the editorials. Therefore, now we have to develop the reading. After reading, if you came across with some difficult words, some grammatical words, write down in notes. This is the best method to improve the verbal ability section. Now, increase the vocabulary. As it is not overnight job, per day minimum 10 words. If you choose the one word, for a metaphor, what are the antonyms? What are the synonyms? What are its uses? We have to use the word in sentence and make it correct grammatically with it correct. Next part is questions most. Try your best to get different questions from the different arena where verbal ability sections are playing important part. And definitely last, most important, but we cannot ignore it. It is only possible. We don't want to PhD in English. We don't want to be the each and every word must be understand. But last year's questions paper, the patterns of the question I believe if one word is repeating two or three times, definitely its meaning becomes very easy to understand. So therefore, this is the sections about the verbal ability and importance. We cannot ignore the VARC section. VARC section stands for the verbal abilities and reading comprehension. Though it feels the very easy section, but it is the challenging part. It is the toughest part, and for that purpose, we need the regular habit. Hopefully, you enjoy this live session with me. If you have any problems, you could comment in the comment box also. If you like the video, share with your friends. And incoming video will come with again exam approach for both the English language preparation paper. Thank you very much.